Cynthia Colarusso, and I'm here today to discuss with you global vaccination and the support of UNICEF. I have been a nurse for over 20 years and have been witness to many people who have died from preventable diseases. Diseases such as tuberculosis, influenza, measles, hepatitis, all diseases that we have vaccinations for readily available to us in the United States. Unfortunately, these vaccines are not readily available globally. In the United States right now, we're facing a situation confirmed by the Center of Disease Control that we have 700 active cases of the measles right now. This is the highest total of cases this century. It's a very serious situation because the numbers are growing very rapidly. And we do have people that live in the United States that do not vaccinate their children due to religious beliefs, due to uneducated situations where they don't understand vaccinations and the risk and threat of what can actually happen if they do come into exposure of these diseases. It's a very, very serious situation. The measles has come over from either the Ukraine or the Philippines or Israel, where there's a huge measles outbreak right now, and the situation is now something of severe concern for people in the United States. One of the myths about vaccines is that although we have a 93 to 97% rate of effective immunity from these diseases, if you're put into a highly populated area with a high rate of contamination, the efficacy of this vaccination will actually decrease and you will become exposed to these disease processes as well. So the huge problem with global vaccination is that it is an enormous challenge, and UNICEF has made it one of its largest initiatives to try, along with the World Health Organization, with the Pan American Health Organization, with private philanthropists, such as the Bill and Melinda Gates Fund. These are all come together to create the National Vaccine Plan. And under a new initiative called the Gavi, which is a vaccine global alliance for vaccines and immunizations, they are very much trying to create an understanding of how significant global vaccination is to world health. Not only do they need monetary funding for these situations to buy the vaccinations to get to these people, but they have to reach them. So the problem is so much larger than just purchasing something and sending it out. You're looking at a laundry list of challenges that UNICEF faces in trying to disperse these immunizations to different countries and areas of rural living. You have educational challenges where you're going to extremely rural areas where people don't have electricity and people don't, it's just a completely different world out in the deserts, mountains, where, their way of life is very different than ours. So education is an utmost importance to explain to them why these vaccinations are so important. Resources, ways to get across these dangerous terrains, safety. A lot of these places are are countries that have very low funding. They are war-inflicted areas. These are not safe areas. These are places where it's difficult to reach people. Climate is another huge challenge to get these vaccines to people who are out in deserts and places where you're talking about high temperature areas. So when you need to get a vaccine to someone out in a desert, uh, these vaccines have to be refrigerated. They have to remain cold or they don't stay good, and then they're not viable when you get there. You need staff, you need people to give these vaccines, you need people to document that they've been given, you need people to follow because these are not, a lot of them aren't one time doses, they are 2 and 3 time dose vaccines. So they need to actually return to these areas at specific times to make sure that they get full coverage. Unfortunately, 19.9 million infants in 2017 did not receive full immunization coverage, which is just so unfortunate because only receiving one dose is not going to cover these children. And it's truly a terrible situation. Um, UNICEF covers 190 countries and territories. They do everything in their power to create child safety, health, and wellness um, across the globe. Unfortunately, with all these challenges, it's very, very difficult. Infant and child vaccines can save an estimated 3 million children a year. Huge. It's a huge. We don't even think about that in the United States. But one of the biggest problems here, along with all the challenges that we face on global vaccination, is that people need to understand the significance of it because global vaccination has a profound effect on the United States, even though I mean, why would we care if people in Africa are vaccinated? Well, we certainly should because in today's day and age, global travel, travel for work, travel for leisure, refugees, immigrants, it's huge. We cross all sorts of spans in travel, and our exposure is enormous. So, exposure coming into the United States and exposure going out. It is has a huge impact on global health across the board. So if you don't think that it does impact you, you're very wrong because it very much has a very intense impact on health across the United States as much as it does the globe. So now that we understand the risks and the challenges and how important it is that we understand it, what do we do to fix it? What could we do? And my solution is support. Support in any possible way that you can. So when you're looking at UNICEF, they take monetary donations. Do you know $19, $19 donation will vaccinate 100 children? That's enormous. One donation. So if you don't have monetary donations, you can volunteer. You can volunteer your time. You can volunteer fundraising. If you have to do a project for school, for your sorority or your fraternity, or a work project or a class project, or you need to do some type of fundraising, just that would be a great initiative because it has such an effect on everyone and even yourself. So it's an enormous initiative to follow. Um, Raising awareness. If you can't do fundraising and you can't do money, raise awareness, educate, tell someone about it. Just sharing that information is huge. It makes a world of difference to know how important it truly is to promote global vaccination. Just and to promote our safe, healthy environment. Um, UNICEF donated over 2.4 million doses of vaccines last year, in 2017. I'm sorry. 2.4 million doses of vaccines, which is a tremendous amount. Um, Due to UNICEF and some of the other initiatives that they were following, polio has now had a 99% rate of decreased by 99%. We're looking at now the potential to eradicate polio by 2027 if everything goes well, which is enormous. It's so it would be such a tremendous accomplishment for these plans to do that, and for the health and wellness of all the other people that suffer from polio. So now that you kind of get an idea of what I think we should do and what I believe is helpful in supporting this initiative, um, what would happen if you didn't? When I was in college, I wasn't really thinking about, vaccinating someone in the Sahara Desert. I wasn't. I mean, I had enough money to get gas and a bagel. I was lucky. And I was busy. So, what if you didn't? What if you said, I don't care, it's not important? And you might. That's a possibility. But when you do think that, be aware that that's a very dangerous thought. Um, if you don't want to take into concern these issues and these statistics, that's okay, but there are consequences, and that we will all face if we don't work together to do something to support. Um, Health officers have warned us that the longer the outbreaks continue and the measles, the greater chance that the measles will come back um, and be a serious problem for the United States. That's how serious right now they're taking this exposure. It is enormous. And that is um, quantified by the Center of Disease Control at this point. They are highly concerned that we could now have to deal with a measles epidemic if this does not get completely under control and very quickly. So, not thinking that it's important, maybe not. Maybe you want to just walk away and say, I don't have time for it. And that's a possibility. But this could affect you in some way. Maybe children you might have. It could very, very seriously have an enormous, profound effect on the United States. Now, what if you say, what if we do work on the solution? What can help us? Well, when we look at supporting this situation, we look at eradicating diseases that are so dangerous, that are just deadly. And that's fantastic. It means that we have global health, that we have one less thing to worry about. I mean, there's enough in the world between terrorist attacks and religious fights and all the other things, that these preventable diseases, we have the means. We just need to get it out there. So, by just promoting this, you can do such great things with such little effort. And that's why I think it's so important, because it doesn't take all that much out of us. And, we are all busy and we all have no time. But these are things that if you could make life a little bit better, it would be a really good thing. Now, just to take a quick look at what would happen if we just ignored it. Right now, in the Global Center for Statistics, we're looking at 20 million children have not been vaccinated for diphtheria, the whooping cough, and tetanus. We have 45 million children that haven't been covered for the measles. We have 76 million children that have not gotten the pneumococcal vaccine. And that covers pneumonia, it covers bacterial meningitis. These are very, very serious things. These are huge numbers. And if you can take that small amount of time, like I said, to do a little bit, it's huge. So now that you have a good understanding of what the risks are and whether you want to put a little effort in or not, I just hope that you can understand this initiative needs some support. So I'd like to share with you that my hope at the end of this is to encourage you to think about the facts that I've given to you and the importance of global vaccination and how it can affect you at some point in your life, and to consider possibly donating money, time, or just spreading awareness would be a tremendous help. And that's it. I hope that you take it into consideration. Thank you.